Shalom Aleichem, good morning, welcome to our viewers on Torah Anytime. I want to dedicate this year to the Atzlacha of Ben Zion Ben Dosa, him and his family. Refuah Shlema to Maxim Yehuda Ben Yafa betoch Sh'ar Choilei Yisrael. And it's the Yortzeit today of my Rebbe Zatzal, Rebbe Ephraim, Ben Rebbe Avram Baruch Greenblatt Zatzal, the author of the Riddles Ephraim, that I had the schus to learn with him for 3 years. And Mitzvah Hashem, his neshama should continue to have an aliyas neshama, as I'm sure it is constantly, should go higher and higher, Mitzvah Hashem, be Meilitz Yosher and the family and in Klal Yisrael. Amen. We still have another, next week in Mitzvah Hashem Parshas Beshalach, and the following in Parshas Yisro we'll have a shir. Then I'm supposed to be in Mitzvah Hashem in Chutz La'aretz a couple of weeks, speaking in different communities in the States. So we'll have a break for a couple of weeks. There's still a few dates available if anybody is interested in certain community or shul in America, in the US, wherever it is. There's still a few dates available. So Parsha.
Should I call? Should I try to make some contacts in the 5 towns?
If you want. If you want. Parshas Boy.
Maybe we stay by myself.
So Mitzvah Hashem will speak about Parshas Boy, some Tefillin, Inyan Deyoima. We'll see. Mitzvah Hashem. The dogs didn't bark. And what was their reward? In 3 weeks from now, Parashat Mishpatim. Basar basad treifa lo tochelu lakelev tashlichun oiso. They get the treif meat. The Avnei Nezer was once riding the train, and there was a group of maskilim right next to him. They take out their lunch, chazir, and they start eating, and he couldn't stand seeing it. But not only that, they started making fun of a chassid sitting next to them. He took out his kosher meat, and he washed his hands first. He conducted himself in kedusha and tahara. They were making fun of him. And then, not only that, they invited him to join them to eat the treif meat. The Avnei Nezer couldn't take it anymore. So the Avnei Nezer says to them, you know, when the maskilim started eating treif meat, the dogs sued them in Beis Din. They took them to Beis Din Shel and they said, "You're thieves!" The pasuk clearly says, "This meat belongs to us. How come you're stealing our food?" It only belongs to the dogs. So the maskilim came to Beis Din Shel Shamayim and they said, "You're right, it belongs to the dogs. But who says a dog is only a 4-legged creature? It could be that some people, referring to themselves, that look like people, they have 2 legs, but they're also dogs. It could be there's a different type of breed, a new breed of dogs. A 2-legged dog. So who says we're stealing their food?" The dogs had to respond. And the dog says, you're right. As long as you're just eating, it could be that you're a new breed of a dog, maybe a 2-legged dog. But as soon as you start opening your mouth, and we hear your barks, and your barks are very different than that of the dogs, it must be that you're not dogs, you are humans. And if you are humans, all you are is a bunch of thieves stealing the dog's meat. So we spoke in the past about animals, we just did now, and we asked a riddle, what are the animals that spoke to human beings? But today we're asking something else. That was about animals, inanimate objects, a doimim, that spoke to people.
Rock?
The rock spoke? What did it say?
Why did you hit me? Why did you hit me these times?
You heard it say? You heard the rock saying it?
It's written.
It says, why did you hit me 3 times? You're talking about Parshas Balak. Bilam. Donkey. But I'm not talking about donkeys anymore. We left the animals.
No, but there's also the rocks also.
Moshe was commanded to hit the rock or to speak to the rock?
To speak to the rock.
Good. He hit the rock and he was charged. But did you hear the rock saying, "Excuse me, how come you're hitting me"? If you give me a source, I'll take it. What an inanimate object, doimim, spoke to people. Hint, Parshas Shavua.
This was Moshe.
I mean, I know that the Kirot Beitcha talk. I mean, I don't know what they say or who they speak to, but
I also don't. The staff spoke to whom? What did it say and whom did it speak to?
Pi HaGoyrel.
Goyrel is not a doimim.
It says that the stick of wood, the clef, I think Rashi brings the clef, Pi HaGoyrel, the Goyrel spoke out. Said, shave it, chelik plainly live.
When you say the word the goyrel, what do you mean? The klaf spoke? The klaf itself spoke. Didn't think about that one.
Also, I think the Gavul, also when Al Sinai, the Gavul said you can't come until this point, so the Gavul, the barrier itself, spoke to them. I think I read that.
Like to see a source?
The Yam-Suf.
Spoke?
He said, how can we let them pass through? They also worship idols.
That's about Chim.
First of all, it's the angels, but I'm saying a doimim that spoke to people.
The river spoke to Rabbi Pinchas Ben Yair.
In our Pasha? That's in Chulin Daf Zayin, that's not in our Pasha. In our Pasha. Big Chiddush, Toises HaShalem. Klal Yisrael are commanded to take the silver vessels, the gold vessels from the Egyptians, and they did. They go to their homes.
And the garments.
They're not commanded about the garments. Soon we'll see.
Oh.
But how exactly did they know where the silver and gold vessels are?
They were darkness, he went to look for them.
That's what Medrash. Comes the Toises HaShalem and says, the Pasuk says, in Yud Aleph Pasuk Beis, go take Klei Kesef. They went in and they took Klei Kesef and Klei Zav. The following pasuk starts with Vayiten Hashem. In other words, Hashem gave it to them. How did HaKadosh Baruch Hu give it to them? HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the Klei Kesef and Klei Zav, the silver and gold vessels, yell, Ani kan, I'm here, I'm here. They yell to the Jews, I am here, come and take me. So we find Klei Kesef and Klei Zav is speaking in our Pasha, Chiddush. Tosis HaShalem. Avoisai halachic shaila, stemming somewhat from our Pasha. You know the Lev L'Achim organization, right? They do fantastic work. One of the Peilim in Lev L'Achim was walking in the streets of Tel Aviv. And a guy stops him and says, you look like a rabbi, can I ask you a question? Yeah. I have a yortzeit for my father, he says. I'm not sure when I should go to shul. It's supposed to be on February 3rd. But I'm not sure if I go February 3rd or February 4th. Because it was after Tzeis HaKoi Chavim on February 3rd. But it's before Chatzois, so maybe it belongs to February 3rd. It's maybe, I'm not sure what to do. Do you know what do I do? So this fellow says to him, do you know the Hebrew date maybe? He says, yeah, that's 2 weeks ago. That we did already. So what do you mean? He says, in our shul we have a Hebrew date, Yortzeit, and an English date, Yortzeit. He says, listen, you have a very good shaila. What's the name of the rabbi in your shul? So I gave him the number, and he called the heads of the kehila over there, and he says, do you really have this minhag? You instituted 2 Yortzeit dates? And he says to him, yes. I'll explain to you why. You saw a guy speaking to you in the middle of the street. These guys, they're not holding. They don't come to visit too often. But a Yortzeit, everybody comes. So it's the only chance that we have to teach them Torah, Tefillah, Tzedakah, Maisim Tovim, the fundamentals of Yiddishkeit, Brachos, Kashrus. When we don't see them, we have to get them into the shul. So we instituted, in our shul we do 2 Yortzeits, the Hebrew date and the English date, and we get them at least 100% more times than otherwise you would see them a year. Once a year, now we have twice a year. So that's what we do. Comes the guy and asks, is this a kosher practice? Can we do this? You don't like it. How come you don't like it? Kiruv!
According to the Chacham Sofer, it's not to do it. It's to do it.
To do what?
To use the non-Jewish day.
To use it even for Kiruv?
Because you're like acknowledging you're going against the Torah. The Torah says, this is the year, this is the month, you've got to count the months from this, and you're going against the Torah. So I learned once that he holds it's a list of Isa, and went to the non-Jewish date. To put it in letters.
So what do you do when you're in England and you write a check? You write the Hebrew date?
Well, then you've got to do kind of different tricks to avoid it. Like, for example, you put
You do what?
7 Jan, which is not a day, and 25. So
You're still using the Goyish date. You said it's an Isur D'Oraisa. Safek D'Oraisa Le'achmir.
I think only when you write it out in full, they write it. Not when, like Japanese, not a month, is it? It's just an abbreviation.
What's the year? What do you write for the year?
You write like 25.
What does that mean? 25 years ago you started counting something? It means this is the year 2025 according to the Goyish mistake.
I think it's not a problem.
Not a problem.
No, I mean, he's not getting any benefit of the day of the year because it's not his day. But what is he doing? Is he doing any Isra on that day because he thinks it's the year?
Who say Kaddish? It's a big deal. Is a minhag not to go? Is a minhag not to go to a wedding? So he's not going to go to a wedding. It's a passive. Maybe he's going to fast. The minhag to fast on the Yortzeit. So he's going to fast one more day. No, I think he's not eating shreif.
Eventually he'll learn.
You don't like it, and he likes it. Who's going to be the brave shlishi? What about Chukteim Lo Talechu?
Sounds a bit.
So what do you write on your checks? Not in Eretz Yisrael.
If you have to.
I just want to say, in Eretz Yisrael, the Hebrew date is legal. And there's no reason whatsoever, if you are writing a check or any government type of a form that you have to fill, not to use the Hebrew date. And if you have a secular person behind the counter who says, what is this? So you say, it's a legal thing, go check with your manager, and they will, and they'll find out that it's okay. I've been using it for years, it's no problem. And not only is it's not a problem, it's a Kiddush Hashem. We have our date, and we don't need to resort to other dates, which stem from a big mistake, and a big kilkul, and a big chilul Hashem. So there's no reason why in the world, why in Eretz Yisrael not to use a Hebrew date. I strongly recommend that one does.
Because it's confusion, could cause confusion with the Shkia, after the Shkia, before Shkia. I mean, there could be.
On a check, there is no confusion. You have to write a date. Why would you resort to a Goyish date when you can write a Hebrew one? It's a Kiddush Hashem. What problem? What is it, a bris? You're going to do a bris milah to the check 8 days later?
Something that's due on a certain day.
Never a problem. Never a problem. And if you're makpid and you're choishesh, in parentheses, right, it's 4:55 p.m., 3 minutes before Shkia. Can't see any takala that can come out of it.
You have to show zmaniyos for the shop.
If you want, right. According to Rabbeinu Tam. You start saying something? Who is the brave shlishi? Oh, you were the brave shlishi. You don't like it either. Anybody else likes it? Kiruv. You like it? 2 against 2. Ad shevua chamishi.
You count from you're born. You count from the day that you're born. Okay? If a bris is 8 days later. Okay? 30 days later is Pinyan Aben for those that have it. So we're not counting the English dates, we're counting the Hebrew dates. The Hebrew dates are kodesh to the person who was born. Okay? Now, 120 years later, all right, do you put the English date, do you put the Hebrew date? I would say you would put the Hebrew date because that's still connected to when he entered the world.
That's for sure. Lechatchila, we're going to use always the Hebrew date. But here, it's a b'diavad situation where you want to bring the guy into the shul and teach him Yiddishkeit. And without it, he's not coming.
What is his bar mitzvah going to be? The Hebrew date or the English date?
He's 45 years old. Bar mitzvah was 32 years ago.
Maybe he's going to have a second bar mitzvah.
Maybe.
I know people that were 99 years old, they had their bar mitzvah.
Not 99. Yekish have a minhag. They do a mitzvah at the another bar mitzvah at the age of 83.
Right.
And then if they merit 96. A person's life is 70 years. So that's it, finished. Now you're starting a new count. When you're 70, it's as if it's 0, and you're starting again, count to 13. That's the age of 83. You do a mitzvah. I attended a mitzvah like that.
Mitzvah Kira, I think he made a mistake. He's not teaching him Yiddishkeit. He's teaching him something else. But Mitzvah Halach, I don't see a problem. Mitzvah Kira is not.
Kira and Halacha don't go together. But you try to be mekarev him too.
I think you should be more creative.
Nechezei Anan. Let's see. The Ramban writes on the pasuk in our parasha. That's why I brought this. HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem. What's the word Lachem? HaChodesh Hazeh. This month. No. To you. What does that mean? This is we're talking about Nisan. Nisan is your first month. It's not the first month. The first one is Tishrei. Cheshvan Kislev. Why are you calling it the first one? Says the Ramban. This to you is the first one to your redemption. And every time you mention Nisan, Iyar, and you say this is the 6th month, this is the 7th month, this is the 9th month, to the Geula, you're doing a mitzvah, remembering the Geula that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took you out of Mitzrayim. That's why when we were exiled and then we came back, we adopted different names of months. Nisan and Iyar and Kislev, they're not mentioned in the Torah. But whenever we use these names, we remember it's the month that we were redeemed from the place where we were exiled to. So we remember the Yeshua of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So too says the Ramban. When you count, today is Sheni b'Shabbos. Today is Yom Shlishi b'Shabbos. Shishi b'Shabbos, you remember Brias Ha'olam and Ma'aseh Bereshis. So every single time you count our days and our dates, you are getting two mitzvahs. You're getting the mitzvah of Zchiras Ma'aseh Bereshis and Brias Ha'olam, and you remember the Geula. And the Ramban is very clear that one has to use the Hebrew dates. The Chassam Sofer, in his drashos, he doesn't use the word deoraisa regarding this, but the Chassam Sofer does say, when you do count the day and the month, you combine the two mitzvahs of, in other words, today is Friday, Beis Shvat, Tavshin Pei Hey, you just combined the Zchiras Ma'aseh Bereshis. Remember, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, and not Chas v'Sholom 25 years ago, something major happened. And you're remembering that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Egypt. But the Chassam Sofer has a very, very harsh language, and that's what you were probably referring to. And the Chassam Sofer says, Halo yevoishu beis Yisrael. It's an embarrassment and a shame to Klal Yisrael that they switch this, what we just explained, two great mitzvahs of remembering HaKadosh Baruch Hu's salvation, remember HaKadosh Baruch Hu's creation of the world, and they're switching it with something like that. Not like Chadashim Mikarov Ba'u, these people that they count to the Yemach Shemo v'Zichroi, and when one does, listen to a language, as if he signs off, I don't have a share in the God of Israel. Frightening. The Maharamshik, Charles Joyce Maharamshik, in Yoredei Simen Kuf Ayin Aleph, he writes it's a deoraisa to use a goyish date. We don't paskin like him. But you see the severity. Yefel Alev, that's the son of Reb Chaim Palaji, he writes, Uvechukoseyem loy terlechum, when you're using a goyish date. So, sometimes you have to, on a check, not in Eretz Yisrael, in Chutz La'aretz, other forms that you have to, you can use it. But you have to cry when you use it. And when you can use the Hebrew date, of course you should. Some people, in their invitations to the wedding, to the bar mitzvah, whatever it is, they have to write also the goyish date because some people don't even understand what the Hebrew date is. They're not going to come to the event. So they write, in parentheses, the goyish date, and they write, leminyanam, to their account, not to ours. And some people, I know them personally, in the invitations, they don't write leminyanam. They write leta'usam, to their mistake. That's a Kiddush Hashem. So, first of all, very, very harsh, very, very problematic to use a goyish date when one doesn't need. But second of all, it's changing the word, it's changing the Torah. It's changing the Torah. The Torah never said to use a goyish date, which is not stam a goyish date. It's a goyish date that counts something that we are so against. Where do we see it so severe? But Bakama Daf Lamed Ches Amud Aleph, we learn that some high officials, Roman officials, came to sit with Chachmei Yisrael, and they said to them, teach us your Torah. And they did. And they liked it. They were very, very impressed. They saw it's godly. Until they got to one little thing they weren't crazy about. Shor shel Yisrael, shenagach shor shel akum. A Jewish person owns an ox and he gored his neighbor, a goyish ox. Does he have to pay? Potu doesn't have to pay $1. But what if it's the reverse and the goyish ox gored the Jewish one? Nezek shalem. Go explain that. Go explain to them. They weren't crazy about it at all. Says the Yam Shel Shlomo there, Baba Kama, in Perek Daled. Why did they do this? Why not change it? Either say they both exempt or they both chayav. But why do you have to, you know what this can cause? The Romans anyways, they're not crazy about you. This is dangerous stuff. Says the Yam Shel Shlomo Yosef Amir, one is chayav to be moiser nefesh on the Torah, not to change the halachos of the Torah. It's a mesirus nefesh. It became as if one of the 3 cardinal sins. Pilei ploi. So you see, you can't distort Torah, and you can ask from what we mentioned a few weeks ago in Megillah Daf Tes Amud Aleph, that in Talmai HaMelech, that he took 70 Chachmei Yisrael and he put them in each one in a different home, and they said, translate the Torah, and they all had Ruach HaKodesh, and they changed 15 different things, so he's not going to get confused, and he's not going to get bothered, he's not going to get upset. But there they weren't changing halachos. Instead of saying Ar Neves, they wrote Seiras HaRaglaim. Instead of saying Bereshis Bar Elokim, Elokim Bar Bereshis, they changed some words that it would be too difficult for him to understand, but they didn't change the halacha. Here, as if you're creating a new thing in the world. There's a Yotzait, a Jewish Yotzait, and a Goyish date. No such thing. And therefore it's extremely severe, one cannot change. And even though there's great importance in Kiruv, and we love Kiruv, but to make a new halacha in town that you have to make a Yotzat and a Goyish date, it's changing the Torah, it's glorifying their religion and their account, and it's Chilul Hashem. Similar but not similar. Anu Shaila. A secular patient goes to the doctor. Doctor is very frum. He feels bad for a long time already. Doesn't know what's going on with him, and the doctor performs a series of tests, and he sees that everything's fine. Baruch Hashem. The doctor asks, I know this guy. If I'll tell him, listen, what I found here is very bad, very severe, but we're going to do one more test. So before that test comes back in a week, I suggest you do some serious introspection. I suggest you start giving tzedakah. I suggest you start learning Torah and you daven and you fast and do everything right. And I know this guy. He will. Next week when he comes back, I'll tell him the truth. Baruch Hashem, we found everything is fine. Got the final result. Baruch Hashem, you're good to go. I guess your tshuva helped. It's gewaldig. The doctor asks, am I allowed to change from the truth here for the sake of tshuva of the patient or not? How do you say, Rabbi Yisai? The pasuk in Parshas Mishpatim says, distance yourself from lying. Sefer HaChinuch, mitzvah Ayin Daled, we learn this mitzvah applies to the Beis Din. Doctor is not a Beis Din. This mitzvah is talking about the Beis Din. It's not to individual. In fact, most those who counted the mitzvahs, Sefer HaChinuch and the Rambam, the Yereim and the Charedim, Rav Saadia Gaon, most Moinei mitzvahs did not count Sheker as one of the 6 Tarnei 13th. Only the Smag and the Smak.
It's a problem.
It is a problem.
Yeah. For the time that he doesn't know what's going on with himself, he's making him feel horrible.
Ooh, horrible.
He's living in fear.
Yeah. What if you lied to him when he was 13 years old, and you're able to keep that lie until 120, and you cause him to be a frum person for 120 years? When you think when he leaves this world, he's going to be upset at you? Why did you make me keep Shabbos for 120 years?
Upset? I don't know. I think Hashem doesn't want us to hurt other people.
So Hashem prefers that he's going to violate Shabbos eating shellfish on Yom Kippur that falls on Shabbos while he's driving to the beach every single year? That's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu prefers that. I'm asking, I don't know.
No, I think Hashem wants the person to be more creative and be Mekarvim a different way.
You have a different way for him?
What?
The doctor's going to see him now for the next 10 minutes, and then he's leaving.
You could pray for him in the other room. I don't know.
For sure you can pray for him. But this is actually going to propel him to action.
We can light the Hashem about.
Yep. HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, not Avraham Avinu. Yevamos Samechem Amud Beis. HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself changed the truth in order to create Shalom Bayis between Avraham and Sarah. So we have to walk in the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and if you can lie for Shalom Bayis, why can't you lie for Shalom Bayis between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So you like it. Ad Shavua Shlishi V'Echiyeh B'neihem. Yes, no, maybe, we'll lie. What do we say to the doctor? The doctor is waiting for an answer. I promised him at the end of the shir, I'm calling him with an answer. Lechatchila, can I tell him?
That could endanger the person because he may get a different doctor after that, and then make medical decisions based on, he may go and get a new tulach or something. You just can't tell him the wrong medical information. He may go in.
You're trying to diffuse the question, I'm trying to come back to the question. I want to know if this is correctly. He's never going to go to another doctor. There are no doctors in town. This guy doesn't know there's such a thing called second opinion. He trusts this doctor because the best doctor in the world. He's not going to second opinion. Is the doctor allowed to do such a thing? Without this problem, you're good with this? Not sure. Baba Basa, Daf Tet Zayin Amud Aleph. The Gemara says, Pnina made Chana crazy. Ki asata tzarata. What did she do to her? Pnina had a lot of kids. Chana didn't. So Pnina, in the morning, she asked Chana, who's doing carpool today? Oh, my God, you don't have kids. So sorry. In the afternoon, Pnina goes to Chana and says, you know, my son's report card was outstanding. How was your... Oh, so sorry. I forgot you don't have kids. She drove her crazy. Why did she do this? To make Chana daven. She did it l'shem shamayim. And yet, the Gemara says she was punished. How was she punished? All her children died. So you see, when you cause somebody sorrow, exactly what you said, Avadia, you'll be punished, even if you're doing it l'shem shamayim. So you can't cause a person sorrow. During that week, you're going to tell him, listen, we're going to find out that last test, we'll see. The guy can't sleep at night. What sorrow you caused him? You see from Pnina and Chana, even though she did l'shem shamayim, you're not allowed to do this. However, Shvus Yankov, Kadmon, Shvus Yaakov, 400 years ago, he talks about a case that the Beis Din had a case, and within 5 minutes, they figure out what the psak is. But they know that if they'll say the psak in such a short time, the people will say that's not a serious Beis Din. That's a joke. In 5 minutes, you figured out the psak on this one? It's a joke. Says the Shvus Yaakov, the Beis Din, even though there's a major sorrow caused to a person waiting for the psak, called Inu Yadin, to delay the psak when you have it, it's a terrible thing. But the Beis Din is allowed to do it. In order for people not to start talking about the Beis Din and say, it's not a serious place over there. They made a mistake. If they would look into it a little more, they would realize I'm right. They're allowed to withhold the psak di and not to share it. For a little while, a day, 2 days, whatever they figure out. You see that you can cause sorrow to a person. So the Aderes in Oiver Orach, Siman Reish Chav Bet, brings this contradiction, seemingly contradiction, and he says, it could be there's a difference between Pnina and the Beis Din. Pnina was active. Kum ve'aseh. She said to Chana, listen, and she caused the sorrow. The psak din, just keeping it to ourselves, is passive. We're just share ve'al taiseh. We're not sharing it. It could be there's a difference, and that's why Pnina was punished, and the Beis Din is allowed to do this. Based on that, will the doctor be able to do this or not? The doctor is going to behave like Pnina. He's bekum ve'aseh. He is actively going to cause the sorrow, and lichora, based on this answer, the doctor will not be able to do this. But the Aderes shares another reason why Pnina and the Beis Din may be different. Pnina did it every single day. When you do it so many times, first of all, you're going to get used to doing this and causing people sorrow. And when you're involved in this so many times, it could be that one of the times it wasn't 100% l'shem shamayim. Maybe that's why she was punished. But the Beis Din is doing it once, very rare occasion. Maybe that will be allowed. Based on that, the doctor, that's not his practice. Once in a blue moon, he has this guy coming to him and he has a way to bring him back to tshuva. He's going to be like the Beis Din and he will be allowed to do this. But the Maaseh, the Aderes, concludes this and says, no good. Why? Because Bab Metzias Samech Aleph we learn, Lo tignov al menas lemeikat. What is al menas lemeikat? The Shiltus explains. You sit with the Chavrusa in shul, and he always puts his cell phone, his car keys on the table. And he said to him, the cleaning person who comes here, they may just take it. Some people come into the shul, the maintenance guy, whatever it is, don't put it on the table. The guy, he doesn't listen. So once he put it there and he leaves for 2 minutes, and during those 2 minutes, you take the car keys or the phone, and he comes, where's my phone? I told you, you don't leave things on the table. And he doesn't know what to do, and after 2 minutes, 3 minutes, it's him. It's okay, this time it's me, but I'm telling you, I'm warning you, don't do this again. And he'll learn. The Gemara says, Al menas lemeikat, even if you're doing this to teach him, to educate him, to help him, you're not allowed. You cause him sorrow, even for a very short time, you're not allowed to. Based on that, the doctor will be instructed, you're not allowed to do this. You want to find a kiruv, be creative, find a new way, a more easier way without causing anyone sorrow. This, lichora, you won't be able to do. A father or a son, maybe they can do it when they're doing it for chinuch. And how come Yosef was able to do it? What did Yosef say to the brothers? You're spies! Why are you causing them tzar? Some say based on nevuah. He had nevuah that he is able to do that. This is what he should do. That's not a question. Back to our shul with Goyish Yotzai, there's another problem. When people will understand, will be taught that the Goyish has validity and that forms the Yotzai, tomorrow they're going to be celebrating Bar Mitzvahs based on that date. And later, Chas v'Sholom, they're going to be celebrating their Rosh Hashanah. Le'avdil elif alfei avdolos. And you don't have anything uprooting the Torah more than that. It's the biggest chilul Hashem. So Mele, if you tell this guy, listen, this year, Parshas Zachor falls on March 2nd, let's say it does, so you can come in here, this year on March 2nd is Parshas Zachor. You say it this way, fine, for your purposes. But to establish a new date on the calendar called the second Yotzeit, that's Achilul Hashem. Rabbi Yoshev always used to say, you don't do business with mitzvahs. Meaning, you don't own the Torah. So you're willing to sacrifice something small, in your eyes, to get something big. I'm going to get this guy to do tshuva. So I'm sacrificing one or two small little things. It's not a big deal, right? It's not your Torah. The Torah belongs to Kodesh Baruch Hu. And he wants us to keep the whole Torah. So you can't decide for Kodesh Baruch Hu, I'm going to get this guy in. If Kodesh Baruch Hu wants to get him in, he's going to get him in a kosher way. And if you don't find a kosher way to do it, stay away. Daven for him, meanwhile, until you find some kind of a creative way to get him in. Otherwise, you can't sacrifice mitzvahs because the Torah is not ours.
I was just thinking, when the doctor does things, he often causes pain for doing something good longer term. Right?
That's letzorech.
So is it just because we have Rapo Yerapeh as a permission to do it? Because otherwise I would have used the same reasoning, saying what right the doctor has to do something very painful because the guy will survive, if not. I mean, that's similar reasoning, isn't it?
Our bodies work in synergy. And when you give a pill and a treatment for something, it always affects something else, many times negatively in the body. But it's letzorech. This is not you're sacrificing a mitzvah in order to gain something else. The Torah tells us to try and heal people if we know how to do it. That's the way we heal people. And sometimes in order to get a person back on track, we actually have to sacrifice something small in his body, but we get him back. It's not a mitzvah, we're not sacrificing something. This is the way the treatment goes.
It seems that Hashem was so angry with Peninnah and she got this terrible punishment. I'm just curious, I'm thinking, it's still, how come it's become such a popular girl's name? You think people would not name a child after her because of what happened?
Was Moshe punished? Was Aaron HaKohen punished? Was Miriam punished? Was Eliyahu HaNavi punished?
Not to the extent of losing all their children. I mean, that was a terrible.
Moshe was punished that his desire, the only desire that I want to come into Eretz Yisrael. Sorry, you can't. The greater the tzaddik, the greater he is scrutinized and punished. Kodesh Baruch Hu is medaktek with the tzaddikim kichut asara, but it doesn't take anything away from their schusim. David HaMelech wasn't punished. Is there one tzaddik that you can mention that wasn't punished? Yes, 4. Shabbos Daf Nun Hey Amud Aleph, we learned there are 4 tzaddikim that never sinned. And they are Amram, the father of David HaMelech. Binyamin HaTzadik. Yishai. That's Amram, son of father David. Amram, father of Moshe, I'm sorry. Yishai, father of David, and David HaMelech's son, Kilav. These 4. Otherwise, כי אין אדם צדיק בארץ אשר יעשה טוב ולא יהיה חטא. Want to say something?
The Aaron's children died also.
Only 2 out of 4. Pina's all children. But that's because of their own sin. But that's because of their own sin. They're judged, not because of somebody else's sin. What about Eov? Many tzaddikim. And that's actually the beauty of Torah. In other religions, they hide the mistakes, the sins of the heroes, because it's all man-made. So why do I have to make him look bad? But the Torah is emes. And the Torah is for us to learn. Even the greatest person can make a mistake. And again, when we talk about great people, we don't understand really what it means. We don't have a sagos in their greatness. But the message is, even great people, they sin, but then they do tshuva. Other religions, man-made, they just hide it. Their people are 100% perfect at all times. We mentioned before the klei kesef and klei zav. So the pasuk instructs Klal Yisrael, go and take the silver, the gold vessels, and they do. But then there's another word, and you mentioned it before, usmalois. They took the klei kesef, they took the klei zahav, and they took their garments. Who asked you to do this? One chapter before, Perek Yud Aleph Pasuk Beis and Gimel, it clearly says, go tell the people, go to the Egyptians and take from them klei kesef and klei zahav. It doesn't say anything about garments. So why did the Jews take their garments? More than that, when they did take the garments, Rashi on that pasuk says, and the garments were more important to them than the silver and gold. Now that's strange. Baba Kamala Mitchesa Mudalef, we learn, who's greater? A person who's commanded to do something, or a person who voluntarily does something? Who's greater? The person who was commanded to do it. Because when you're commanded to do something, immediately Yetzer Hara comes and says, no, don't do it. I have something better for you to do. So when you conquer your Yetzer, you're greater. So you're commanded to take the silver and gold. The smalos, the garments that you were commanded, you take them, and it's more important to you. Rashi says, whatever is last in the pasuk is more important. Kesef, then zahav, but the most important in their eyes were the garments. You weren't commanded even to take it. So first of all, why'd you take it? And second, why is it so important in your eyes? Valdik.
I think I saw something once, maybe it's Rabbi Yishua did think that there's a reason why they took the garments, because if the Egyptians didn't have any clothes, they couldn't race after them, they couldn't pursue after them.
First of all, I don't think it would stop the Egyptians. And second of all, it doesn't say they took all their clothes. Mistama, they left them something that they were wearing at the time.
We know they had pajama
On power. And Mistama, they had one for Shabbos and one for weekdays. They had two sets. Zchus de Avrom, the Shulchan of a Rebbe, asks this Shaila, and his answer is Gevaldik. When did this happen that they came to the Egyptians, knocked on the door, and they took their silver, their gold, and their garments?
The night of.
In the morning. In the morning, right after Makas Bechoires. Last night, all the firstborns are dying, dropping like flies. In the morning, Tesvav and Nisan is when they're knocking on the doors. Let's go back about 5 years ago. Remember what happened? Anybody still remembers COVID-19, Corona? Here, it came here around Purim time. And people got boxes and boxes of Chinese costumes, and nobody wanted to open it. Who knows what's inside? People in China were dropping like flies. It's very contagious. Who knows what I'm going to get? Stay away. I don't want to touch it. What happened on the day of the Geula? In Tezvav Nisan. They didn't know there's such a thing called Makas Bechoris in the world. This is the first time ever in history. As far as they're concerned, it's a different type of corona. It's not COVID-19, it's COVID-20, COVID-21, maybe COVID-10. It's the first time there's such an unbelievable plague. In every house, there was at least one person dead. But Rashi says many times there are much more. Because every father, every Egyptian father thought all his kids are his. But that wasn't necessarily true. And the mother was with a lot of different other men. So she had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different firstborns in that same house. So it could be that in one house, there's 3, 4, 5 dead people. The Jews knocked on the door. Excuse me, can I get your silver and your gold? Sure. And the Egyptian lady says, listen, if you want, you can also take clothes. I have shelves and shelves, piles of clothing of all my kids that died. I have nothing to do with them. Would you like him? Says, yes. They should have said no. This is dangerous. The silver and the gold, I can put in a bag, put in the suitcase, I don't have to touch it. Kodesh Baruch Hu commanded me to take it, I will. Kodesh Baruch Hu commanded me, what can I do? But the garments, I'm going to put on my body, it's dangerous stuff. I don't want it. And yet, all the Jews said yes. Because they knew, when they listened to Kodesh Baruch Hu, when he says, I'm going to pass in Mitzrayim that night. Ani Hashem, ani velo a virus. Ani Hashem, ani velo an Egyptian mutation. Ani Hashem and not coronavirus. Ani velo acher. I'm going to do it. I'm going to strike the Egyptians, and therefore don't think it was a plague. It is makas bechoyes, and it's not contagious. Nothing is going to harm you. You can take everything that belongs to them, everything from their house, and you're not going to be affected. So when the Jews took their dresses, their clothes, their garments, they showed emunah b'Kodesh Baruch Hu. And Emunah is so important because the Rambam in his Perush HaMishnayos, in the Akdamat Perush HaMishnayos writes, I'm going to tell you now all the Mishnayos, which is basically the entire Torah. But it is more dear to me to explain one thing in Emunah, and when it comes to Emunah, I'm going to expand because it's more dear to me. Yoter mikol asher alamdeu, more so than all the rules, all the mitzvahs and averos in the Torah. More important to me to teach you one thing of Emunah. Tehillim Kuf Yutes Pasuk Vav. David HaMelech says, "Kol mitzvosecha Emunah." It all hinges on Emunah. Mimele, when the Jews took their garments, showing this is Emunah. The silver and gold is a command, but the dresses are Emunah. And therefore it was more dear to them than the silver and gold because everything hinges on Emunah.
So the ones that came out had the Emunah.
Sure.
The ones that came out, the ones that died.
That's why they came out. That's why they were redeemed. Leil Shimurim hu Hashem. It's the guarded night. Leotzia me'eretz Mitzrayim. U'alayla hazeh la'Hashem shimurim lechol bnei Yisrael ledoiroisam, for generations. It's a special night. So this is a protected night. Leila Seder. Is there any nafkamina la'alocha that it's protected? You're guarded. Nafkamina la'alocha.
You don't say the prayers when you come to sleep at night.
Bedtime Shema, says the Rema in Taf Pei Aleph, Seif Beis. You don't say all the psukim around the Shema that are intended for Shmira because you don't need them. The source is Rosh Hashanah Daf Yud Aleph, Amud Beis. There we learn it's a protected night. Any other nafkamina la'alocha?
Don't need to lock your door.
Oh, Magen Avraham. Taf Pei Aleph, Seif Kotman Beis. Also, he writes, if you have 2 locks, reduce it to 1. If you have only 1 lock, you don't need to. It's a protected night. Any other nafkamina la'alocha? Leila Seder falls on Friday night. In the shul, you don't say Magen Avraham after Shmoneh Esrei because it was introduced for Shmira. You don't need. Tonight is guarded. Great. So we see 3 nafkaminos la'aloche. That it's not stam agada. Carries weight, lemaise. If that's the case, how is it possible if you remember 24 years ago, Park Hotel in Netanya, 30 people were murdered and more than 160 people were injured, where Yemach Shemam came into the middle of the Leila Seder and started shooting all over. How is it possible? How many blood libels in Europe and throughout the world? Dafka on Leila Seder. You're saying it's a protected night. How is it possible? Is it protected or not? Are you guarded tonight or not? Doesn't bother you? Comes the Chidah and says, look at that pasuk again that we read before. Double language. Leil shimurim hu Hashem. What does that mean? It's a protected night, special night. Great. Leotzia me'eretz Mitzrayim. Hu alayla hazeh Hashem. Special night for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now again you're repeating yourself. Shimurim lechol bnei Yisrael ledoiroisam. You already said it's a guarded night. Why do you have to say this again? Says the Chidah. It says twice shimurim, but once it says shimurim la Hashem. And once it says shimurim lebnei Yisrael, it depends why you're doing the Leila Seder. If you're doing it because you love eating the matzah and all the other delicacies that your wife makes, great. But you're not protected. You're doing it lebnei Yisrael because you love it, you're not protected. If you're doing it shimurim la Hashem, if you're doing it because the Kodesh Baruch Hu commanded you, and you're doing it for the sake of the mitzvah, you're protected. If you love the matzah and the other things, that's okay, as long as you're also doing it for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But if you're doing it only for you, for your stomach, you're not protected. But if you're doing it l'shem Hashem, mimele, you are protected. But the truth is that lichoira, this question doesn't even start. Because in the Mechilta, listen to a language. Shimurim lebnei Yisrael, lechol bnei Yisrael ledoiroisam. What does that mean? Magid shekol Yisrael tzrichin lishtamer boy. This is the most dangerous night of the year. Exactly the opposite of the Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, Yud Aleph Amud Beis, the Gemara says, is a protected night. Don't worry, don't lock your door. You don't have to say Shmira. You don't have to say bedtime Shema, all the psukim. But the Mechillah says the opposite. Machlokes Tanaim. The Mechillah says, just like back then, you were instructed, stay home. Don't leave the house, because once the permission is given to the Mechabel Shuv Einu Mavchin Ben Rasha Letzadik is dangerous. So too for generations, always have to stay home. Watch yourselves, it's the most dangerous night of the year. Mimena, the question doesn't even start. Either it's a machlokes tanaim, or you can even settle this machlokes saying like the Chidah. Rosh Hashanah, Yud Aleph, the Gemara says, it's protected when you're doing it, l'shem shamayim. The Mechillah says it's so dangerous when you're doing it for yourself. Raya.
The connection with the clothes they took from the Egyptians. I mean, we have to say that those were clothes they were able to wear. Like, for example, imagine some chassid going to Tel Aviv, doing Haknas Haskalah, he's knocking on doors, and the woman opens the door and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've not money. I've tried to tell, I've got my children, I've lost them in Thailand here, I've got all their clothes I don't need, please take them." What's he going to say?
What's the problem?
I mean, you know, T-shirt, short, trousers and all those sorts of things. He's not going to take them, is he?
Why not? Now he has Shmatis for the whole year. Some ask differently. One of the merits of Klal Yisrael were, the Medrash says, that they didn't change their dress. Sheloshinu levusham, and that's why they got out of Mitzrayim. So now you're taking Egyptian clothes? What's wrong with you? You want to be wearing Goyish clothes? So some explains very simple. The buttons were on the left side, they moved them to the right. They made some kind of a shinui, which now is apparent that this is not an Egyptian dress. That's not how they dress. Memele, it's not a problem. They converted their clothing as well.
That's why it says they put them. It says they put them on their children. They took the adult clothing with mini Egyptian.
That's already a change.
Mini clothing. The kids wear.
Yeah, I think that's what the Baal She'ama says. Baal Torah Tmima. והיה לך לעושה לידיך לזיכרון בין עיניך למען תהיה תוירס השם בפיך. Tefillin. How many batim on the tefillin של ראש? 4. Tefillin של יד? 1. Why is that? So the Prisha brings from the Maharshal in Simin Lamed Beis that the tefillin shel rosh correspond to the 4 senses that you have in your head. What 4 senses do you have? Sight, smell, taste, hearing. Corresponding to that, 4. And on the arm, you only have 1. Touch. And therefore, what you're saying, many say before putting on the tefillin, a little prayer, and you say there that I want to be mishabed, my taivos and machshavos, I want to subject everything that I have to Kodesh Baruch Hu's service. What do you mean everything that I have? I'm talking about the 5 senses that I have. 4 in the head, and therefore 4 batim, and 1 in the arm. That's what the Prisha says in the name of the Maharshal. It brings on the smak. But maybe in a different way. The Torah is learned in a pardes way. There's 4 ways. Pshat, Remez, Drash, Sod. 4 levels. So maybe corresponding to that, the Tefillin Shel Rosh, which goes with what you use to learn the Torah, has 4 batim corresponding to the 4 ways of understanding the Torah. But the Tefillin Shel Yad correspond to the Asiyah, to actually doing the mitzvahs. Doing the mitzvahs is only one way. One way to have the kavana, I'm doing it l'shem shamayim, there's only one way. Mimeli, you only need 1 bite. To learn Torah, many different levels. 4 different understandings, 4 different layers. So 4 batim. But the asiyah is 1. And therefore only 1 bite. Or, maybe in a different way. I think I saw it in Posech Es Yadecha, I think it brings, maybe Chelik Aleph. Maybe in a different way. You're sitting with a chavusa. He has different thoughts than you. You're sitting with different chavusa, he has other thoughts. Everybody has different thoughts. So Tefillin Shel Rosh represents the machshavos. Everybody's machshavos is different. As long as they're all geared to Torah, it's fine. You're allowed to argue with your chavusa when it's l'shem shamayim. But when it comes to the arm, and that means holding hands, achdus, doing the mitzvahs together, there's only 1. Mimele achdus, only 1. There's no room for compromise, no room for my way or the highway. You unite. You hold hands together and you do it together and you help each other. It's 1 and 1. But when it comes to machshavos, it comes to learning, you can have many, many different views and thoughts about Torah, and therefore you have 4 different batim. Boy said the riddle of the week. Can it be that you're using tefillin on Shabbos, but not to put them on your head or on your arm? I think we spoke about it in the past. No. Using them in a different way on Shabbos. What's that?
One finds the feeling on Shabbos, not to leave them on the street.
I'm at home. I'm not going to wear them. I'm going to use them in a different way on Shabbos. A tefillin muktzah?
Yes.
So what are you using them? If you're putting them on your head because you found them outside the city, fine. I'm not talking about that. You're sitting at home. Can it be?
Wearing them?
Not wearing them. Using them in a different way. Using them, but not in a way of wearing them. How can that be? What type of muktzah is it? Most want to say it's a klisha melachto leisum. So if you want its place, or you want to use it for something that you need to use it with, fine. But what would you use it for? The Reb Chaim says that once the Chazon Ish told him the tefillin were on the floor. So the Chazon Ish told him, pick up the tefillin, put him somewhere else, and sit in that place. That's the tzorech mekoimo. I want this place. I want to sit here. So he took the tefillin, he moved him, and then he sat there for a few minutes. Fine. I'm asking something else. How can you use tefillin on Shabbos, but not by wearing them? Surprising Mishnah Bura. In Simen Shin Ches, Seif Koton Chaf Daled. He brings that the Rema says that you don't carry the tefillin unless it's letzorech. What's letzorech? Says the Mishnah Bura. In order for them not to be stolen or not to be wrecked. They're in direct heat or something like that. But he brings that the Taz and the Magen Avraham are machmir, and they hold that it's a klisha melachto le'isu, because you can't wear them on Shabbos, and therefore you should not carry them unless tzarich legufan. You need them. What do you need them for? Says the Mishnah Bura, Hainu kedei sheyishmeruhu min hamazikin. You carry tefillin with you, not on your head. You carry them with you. You are protected from damaging agents. Mishnah Bura, Chiddush. Sefer Keser Rosh, and that's a minhagim of the Goen. Also in Sefer Tosefes Maise Rav and Simin Zayin, he brings that Reb Chaim Volozhin once asked the Goen, how come you don't put on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin? Don't you want to be machmir? So the Goen answers Reb Chaim and he says, and why do you put them on? He says, because I want to be machmir like the shit of Rabbeinu Tam. And the Goen says to him, if you want to be machmir, you should actually wear 64 pairs of tefillin. So I don't have time to wear 64 pairs of tefillin. The whole day I'm just going to be putting on 64 pairs. Who has time? Imagine the cost to produce and buy 64 pairs of tefillin. Also it says in Keser Rosh that Rabbi Yisrael Mishkel of the Talmud of the Goen heard from him that the Goen says, I have questions on Rabbeinu Tam and I'm going to ask him these questions in Mitzvah Hashem when I get there upstairs. But how in the world did the Goen Mevina get to 64 pairs of tefillin? The Goen Mevina is not making a joke. He didn't say 63, he didn't say 102. He said 64 because it's 64. How do you get to 64 pairs of tefillin? There are four main opinions on how to place the parshios in the tefillin. The first one, we're all familiar because that's what we do. That's Rashi. From the right to left. Kadesh ve'aya ki eviyacha, Shema ve'aya im shamoya. Rabbeinu Tam has a little difference. Kadesh ve'aya ki eviyacha, but then he switches ve'aya im shamoa, Shema. Shimusha Rabba, similar to Rashi, but instead of going from right to left, going from left to right. Ve'aya im shamoa Shema, ve'aya ki eviyacha, Kadesh. Ravid, like Rabbeinu Tam, but again, going from, instead of right to left, going from left to right, Shema v'aya im shamoa, v'aya ki eviecha, and Kadesh. So you have four basic pairs of tefillin. But, Menachos Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph, we learn Machlokes Rashi and Tosfos. Do you put the parshas inside when they're lying down, like Rabbeinu Tam, or you put them standing up? If you want to be machmir, you have to do both for the four shitos. So 2 times 4, that's 8 pairs of tefillin. But it doesn't stop there. There's another machloket. On what side of the cloth do you write? The cloth is close to the body of the behema or to the hair. Machlokes. So you got to do that times 2. 8 times 2 is 16 pairs of tefillin. There's another machlokes. There's a big machlokes Rosh and Rambam regarding Parshas Psucha and Suma. How do you write it inside? Or Chaim Simin Lamed Vav. Mimele, if you want to be machmir and satisfy all opinions, you have the 16 pairs of tefillin, and you have to double that. So you have 32 pairs of tefillin right now. But there's another machlokes. What do you prepare the ink from? From Ashan Eitzim or from the Afatzim? Rabbeinu Tam says, Tosfos in Shabbos Chav Gimel, that an ink coming from Afatzim is pasul. The Rambam says there's nothing more mehuda than that. You have to satisfy both opinions. You have 32 pairs of tefillin. Times 2, 64 pairs of tefillin. If Rabbeinu Tam comes today, and he forgot his tefillin, and you say, Rebbe, I have your tefillin. Would he wear your tefillin, Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin? Why not? He's stuck without his tefillin. If First of all, what do you call Rabbeinu Tam? Rabbeinu Tam is the grandson of Rashi. So what happened at Bar Mitzvah? If the grandfather, Rashi, wanted to honor his grandson with tefillin, what did he buy him? Tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam that still didn't exist? And why are you calling it tefillin to Rabbeinu Tam? They found in the name of Rav Hai Gaon and the Teshuvah Sagei Oinim that their shita is like Rabbeinu Tam. They came a little before Rabbeinu Tam. So why don't you call the tefillin of Rabbeinu Hai Gaon or the Teshuvah Sagei Oinim's tefillin, not Rabbeinu Tam? They found in the kever of Yechezkel Hanavi tefillin like Rashi. But they found in the caves of Bar Kochva tefillin like Rabbeinu Tam that goes a little before Rabbeinu Tam. So why are you calling it Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin? So some say there was a machlokes and Rabbeinu Tam was machriya like this shita and therefore it got the name tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam. But would he wear your tefillin today? L'choira, he wouldn't. Why? The Ma'aser Rekach and the Rambam brings the word totafot in the second parsha, Vayayim Shamua, according to Rabbeinu Tam, is spelled without vav, ksiv chaser. But the way we write tefillin today is with one vav. So it comes out, according to Rabbeinu Tam, this tefillin is pasul. Rabbeinu Tam holds you have to write totafot without vav, without any vav. We write with one vav. So it's against Rabbeinu Tam. So Rabbeinu Tam would not wear his own tefillin that you produce today because he holds that it's pasul. Not only that, we find a machlokes in Menachos Lamed Gimel, we mentioned before, whether the pashos have to be standing or lying down. The Rebbe Yehuda brings that today, even in Rabbeinu Tam, we do like Rashi, tefillin, pashos omdois. So it comes that if you want to offer Rabbeinu Tam his tefillin, he can't wear it because he holds that it's pasul. You have to put it shoichvus. So for these two reasons, lichoira, if you offer Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin, he will say, sorry, this is not Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin, and I'm not going to wear it.
The Rebbe Yehuda holds that.
The Rebbe Yehuda says the minhag is to stand up the pashos even in tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam. Even though Rabbeinu Tam holds that you have to put him lying down.
So according to the gun, you need double that, 128 because of the vav. You need another 64 pairs, right? Because of the chassid. Oh no, in the Rabbeinu Tam.
There's a few other machlokes, by the way. So it doesn't stop there.
So if there are all these types, how come the Rashi and the Rabbeinu Tam have become the most popular? By some people put it. I mean, the others.
Look, the halacha was decided like Rashi. And again, we found tefillin like Rashi much before him. But since he decided, so he got the name tefillin of Rashi. It's not tefillin shel Rashi. He didn't start it. It started much before him. There is a Kabbalah from Tzadikim, brings it Sefer Shulchan Melachim, that a person who's always careful to put tefillin shel Rabbeinu Tam every single day, he's not going to miss. Once he's going to make a mistake, and accidentally he's going to take tefillin de Rabbeinu Tam instead of tefillin shel Rashi, and he's going to be zoichet to say a bracha on tefillin de Rabbeinu Tam. Because tefillin, Rabbeinu Tam in Shamayim makes it that a person who follows him always will have the zchus to say a bracha on the tefillin. The Belzer Rebbe, once his Meshamish gave him the tefillin, and he put him on, he said a bracha, and then the Gabbai tells Rebbe, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. I gave you the tefillin shel Rabbeinu Tam instead of tefillin shel Rashi. And the Belzer Rebbe says, don't worry. That's not you responsible for this. Rabbeinu Tam is responsible because one who is careful, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rabbeinu Tam has koach in Shamayim to affect it, that he will have the zchus to say a bracha over tefillin shel Rabbeinu Tam at least once in his lifetime. Ashkenazi says 2 brachos on the tefillin. Asfardi says only one. When does Ashkenazi say 1 bracha on tefillin? He's going to put 2 pairs. He's going to put, tefillin shel Yad and tefillin shel Rosh, but he's going to say 1 bracha like the Sfardi, even though he is not Sfardi and he's not planning to become a Sfardi. When does that happen? There's no nedarim, he feels okay, no pikuach nefesh shayles, and yet only 1 bracha for Ashkenazi, just like normally the Sfardim do. Can it be? Yes, it can. In the middle of davening, he didn't have tefillin and talis. He didn't get it. They bring him talis and tefillin 2 minutes before Shmoneh Esrei. If you say Baruch Ata Hashem before you say Gal Yisrael, you can't put. It's too late. But just before Baruch Ata Hashem, says the Rema, you should put that tefillin on with only 1 bracha to minimize the hefsek. You're already making a hefsek here to minimize it. And the talis, don't say a bracha at all. Only say it after Shmoneh Esrei. Rema in Simin Samich Vav Seif Ches, and the Mishnah Berurah there, Seif Koton Mem Zayin. 1 more riddle. last thing in the Pasha is Pidyon Haben. How many times do you redeem your first son? Once. But if it was so simple, I wouldn't ask. So my riddle is like this. You have a kohen, and this kohen is meyuchas all the way back to Aaron HaKohen. He has a shtar yichus, father, son. We know it goes all the way back, 100% kosher. So it's not kohani chazaka. You know he's a kohen. You did pidyon haben. You gave exact amount that you were supposed to. The one who officiated the ceremony was the chief rabbi, along with a badatz. 100% kosher. Can it be that you'll do more than one pidyon haben? And if so, how many pidyon haben will you do?
Same child?
Same child. You can only do it for one child.
It's 2 wives. Yes, 2 wives.
For that kid that you already did pidyon haben, kosher lemehadin with all the hidurim mideoraisa miderabbanon, and yet, will you ever do more than one? And if so, how many? You change the name, Yishaberach. He's the same person.
No more Pidyon Haben.
Same name. From the time he's born until 120.
Siamese twin?
One person only. And if they're twins, so you know who came out first. Only he does. You do Pidyon Haben for him. You did already Pidyon Haben for this person and will do it again, potentially. And if so, how many times? Big Riddish. Darkei Moshe Orachaim Simen Taf Ayin. Who's the Darkei Moshe? The Rema. He brings him the kolbo. Kolbo is Rishonim. Some have the minhag to do Pidyon Haben to the Bechorim every Erev Pesach. Just like Kodesh Baruch Hu skipped over the houses and redeemed the firstborns at Erev Pesach. And if that's the case, the answer to my question is, how many times? It depends how long this guy lives. Every single year, according to the kolbo, you will redeem your first son again, depends how long the father lives. He will redeem his firstborn. So it's not only the official first one after a month, there's going to be one every single year of Erev Pesach, according to this minhag. Good Shabbos, Rabbi Yisai. Achenu kol Bais Yisrael nesunim b'tzar uvashim v'aravim diben bayam uven bayabasha. המקום ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצור ולפוחם מאפל ולעיר ומשובוד לגאולה אשתו בעגולו בזמן קוריב ונאמר אמן.